So glad you could join me. We're doing something a little different today. We've taken a really popular conversation from our Sip&Talk podcast and re-edited it to get right to the heart of a huge mind-bending topic. Let's just jump right in.
And before we get started, I just have to give a huge shout out to our friend Micky for sponsoring this highlight reel from Sip&Talk. It's thanks to him we can bring this to you. Okay, let's get into a mystery that has puzzled scientists for, well, decades.
So, let me start with a question for you. Have you ever just looked up at the night sky and felt completely, utterly small? It's a feeling we've all had, right? Well, today, we're going to explore just how right that feeling really is.
All right, so to really get a grip on the mystery we're about to dive into, we first need what I like to call a lesson in cosmic scale humiliation. I promise it sounds way worse than it is.
Let's start right here, at home. You know our sun? It's so ridiculously massive that you could fit 1.3 million Earths inside of it. Think about that for a second. If the sun were a basketball, our entire planet, everything we've ever known, would be like a single speck of dust next to it. And that's just our backyard.
Okay, so now let's zoom out a bit. Our whole solar system, it's just one of, get this, 200 to 400 billion other star systems in our Milky Way galaxy. You know, my co-host Joe has this perfect way of putting it. He says we're basically just an accessory pack for the galaxy, and not even the fancy flagship model.
And it gets even crazier. Our galaxy is just a tiny piece of something called a local group, which is then part of the Virgo supercluster. So yeah, Joe's other quote really hits home here. If the universe had a Google Maps, our location would just say, keep zooming to see. We are just unimaginably small.
So, we've established that the universe is just mind-bogglingly huge. But that vastness brings up a really deep question. If it's so full of stars and planets, why is it so quiet, so silent? This is the central mystery that literally keeps astronomers up at night. Just look at the numbers. In our galaxy alone, scientists estimate there are about 1.2 times billion potentially habitable planets. That's not a typo. Over 1 billion chances for life to get started, right here in the Milky Way.
So with all of those potential homes, all those chances, the question is so simple, but so profound. Where is everybody? The universe should be buzzing with civilizations, but all we hear, all we see is, well, nothing, just silence.
And this huge contradiction actually has a name. It's called the Fermi paradox. It's that massive gap between the incredibly high odds that alien life exists and the complete and total lack of any evidence for it. So let's dig into two of the most fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying possible answers to this paradox.
Okay, let's dive into our first major theory. And I'll warn you, this one is pretty chilling. It's called the Great Filter, and it suggests there's a very good reason the universe is so eerily quiet. So the idea behind the Great Filter is that on the long road from the very first spark of life all the way to a civilization that can travel between stars, there's some kind of barrier, a filter. Think of it like a giant cosmic wall that is almost impossible for any species to get past.
And this is where it gets really personal. The critical question for us is, where are we in relation to that filter? Is it behind us or is it still ahead of us? Now, if the filter is behind us, like maybe the jump from non-living matter to actual life was the super hard part, then wow, we are the incredibly lucky ones who made it through. But if the filter is ahead of us, that means we are probably heading for some kind of catastrophe that no species anywhere has ever survived. And you could probably guess what that might be. Things we're dealing with right now. Runaway AI, climate collapse, nuclear war. Maybe that's the Great Filter.
You know, if you thought the Great Filter was scary enough, let's just hold on, because we're about to explore another possibility. This one was made famous by Lee Sixton's amazing sci-fi novel, The Three-Body Problem. It's called the Dark Forest Theory.
So this theory, it paints the universe not as this vast, empty place, but as a dark, dangerous forest. And in this forest, every single civilization is a hunter with a gun, hiding, staying absolutely silent and just listening. Because in the dark forest, the second you reveal your location, you invite your own destruction.
This absolutely terrifying conclusion all comes down to two simple ideas, or axioms. First, survival is the #1 goal for any civilization. That makes sense, right? And second, civilizations always want to grow and expand. But the amount of matter and resources in the universe is finite. It doesn't grow. So you basically got a zero-sum game on a cosmic scale. So, in this dark forest, you can't trust anyone. It's impossible. Think about it. A civilization that looks primitive and harmless today could have a technological explosion, a sudden, massive leap in science, and become an existential threat to you tomorrow. You can't take that risk. So the only logical, rational move for your own survival is to eliminate any other life you find before it has the chance to eliminate you. It's brutal, for sure, but it's also a terrifyingly logical reason for why the universe is so silent. Everybody's hiding.
So, where does that leave us? What does all this mean for humanity? The new kids on the block who are making a whole lot of noise in this cosmic forest. Well, these theories force us to ask a really profound question about our own future.
And this isn't just science fiction. There's a real debate happening right now among actual scientists. On one side, you've got groups like Micky, who think we should be actively broadcasting our existence into space. You know, maybe a friendly advanced civilization will hear us and help solve our biggest problems, like climate change. But on the other side, you've got thinkers like the late, great Stephen Hawking, who warned that trying to contact an advanced civilization could go for us about as well as it did for the Native Americans when Columbus showed up.
And that brings us to the final and most critical question of all. And this is the one I really want to leave with you to think about. If there was a big red button right in front of you, a button that would broadcast Earth's existence, our location, everything about us, to the entire cosmos, would you push it?
Wow, so that was a lot, I know, and this was really just a tiny slice of a much, much bigger conversation. You can find the full, unedited discussion just by subscribing to the Sip&Talk podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
And of course, one more massive thank you to our sponsor, Micky. You can find a link to his channel right down there in the description. It's full of fun memes and the latest travel vlogs, so be sure to go check it out and show him some love.
All right, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I really hope it gave you something new to think about the next time you look up at all those stars. Take care, and I'll see you next time.